Alright, so here's another student request. We have the top of a pin, and has a kind of funky pattern going around the top here, but it's really not going to be too difficult. We're going to start by making just half of that thing and revolving it. So I'm going to make a rectangle, and I'm going to add a circle. That's going to have that same center point as the middle there. It's going to end up over here. I'm going to extend a line straight up, and I'm going to use my trim tool to cut out the areas in between and to cut off that side. Alright, now we're going to revolve this. Maybe. It didn't like something. Alright, so I'm going to right click, go down to our Sketch Doctor. Sketch Doctor will diagnose to see if you have anything that's overlapping or open or just not quite connected right. So it says there might be a little section here that didn't quite connect. It's now successfully closed when I tell it to revolve. And revolve is here under 3D model, revolve, but you can also just hit R on your keyboard as a shortcut. That's what I like to do. So that'll give us the basic shape, right? Let's take a look. Could be a little bit longer. Now, you should be using actual dimensions, but as I only have a picture, I will show you. Uh-oh. I better set that thing up first. As I only have a picture of it, I am just going to be roughing out about what it looks like. So here I have that thing, and to try and make this like the plastic, I'm going to make a shell, which is this tool here, and it's going to tell me select surfaces to remove. So I want to remove this face, and you're going to have to measure how thick the plastic is. I'm just going to kind of guesstimate on my end so it looks about right. I'm just going to make sure that the entire thing is 0.01 inches thick for me. In my origin folder, because I made that right on that origin line with my original sketch, I have a plane that goes right down the middle, so I'm going to make a new sketch on that. And if I right click and choose slice graphics, or if I hit F7 on my keyboard, I can make a kind of like a section view of that. And let's take another look at that picture. Okay, so the top of this has a triangle thing going on all the way around. I am just going to assume that you can measure how far it is from one edge of the triangle to another, and that doesn't look like it's even, so I'm going to use a vertical constraint. Scratch that. I'm going to use a horizontal constraint. I'm really just looking for this dotted line here. So I'll grab that midpoint and make it match up with that midpoint. And now that means that no matter what I change this side to, it'll change symmetrically. So if you can measure this out and you know how wide the top or the bottom part of that triangle is, then you can simply draw down how far down it is, and then connect it back to this other side here. Alright, you should get a completely closed shape. If I go to extrude it, I'm going to tell it to cut, change my distance to all, and click OK. Now that I have that part cut, I'm going to say circular pattern. I'm going to click just on that little triangle I cut out, or I could click over here. Rotation axis is any part of this curved surface, and you want to tell it how many of those things there are. For this, looks like maybe 14 is going to put me right on the money. And there's my little crown bit there. To get this part here, and actually it looks like that might be a little bit smaller than the rest of it. So let's take another look at this plane. Now if you remember my original sketch here, that was my base. Well, this is a plane here. So when I go to make a new sketch on this plane here, I can project the geometry, maybe, of the inside, choose circle. I don't know that I needed the inside, but that's okay. I got it anyway. I can say I was really wanting to get a sketch. We'll do that instead. Ignore this one. So I'll delete that outside circle. I have a circle here, so this went from that same center point to the outside edge. I'm going to make another circle here, so you can measure how far in that's cut. And when you go to dimension it, you would dimension between these two lines and say what that actual number is. And then you would choose to extrude, cut that bit down some distance. It says 1 inch, but it's not moving, is it? There it goes. And we're just going to try and make it look about right. So that looks like it's still not quite it. Yeah, we'll go 0.05. I know it's too far, but whatever. Not a big deal. I'm going to make a new plane on this curved surface. And the way that I do that is I click plane, I click on the surface, and then I have to click a reference. So I'm going to choose, for me it's going to be my YZ plane. Okay, so it's going to make a plane that's tangent to this surface. Right click on that, make a new sketch. Look back on this again. It's going to be right on that lip, and it has a little bit of a rounded edge on the corners there. So I want to be able to see that lip, so I go project geometry. I click on that line. I'm going to make a rectangle. I'm going to make it lopsided so it makes it really easy. I come in here with my horizontal constraint or vertical constraint, as long as it matches up. To get that, I'm going to assume that you can figure out the width of this, the length of it, and we're going to add a little bit of a fillet to the edges here. That's way too big. We'll say like 0.02. Nope, still too big. 5 thousandths. Yeah, looks about right. So, I have some rounded edges. I have about the right shape. When I go to finish my sketch, if we look at it from over here-ishly, you'll see the sketch is tangent to the surface, so it's not actually on the curved surface, it's just kind of hovering above it. So we're going to use a thing called emboss. It's going to take that, and it's going to make a, it's going to add material to the face, and we can wrap it to a face as long as it's cylindrical. So we're going to say that face, which it looks like it's putting over there instead of over here. We'll see what happens. I think our plane might be facing the wrong way. Yeah, it didn't like that. We'll change it to the other way instead. And say OK. And whoa. Make sure you have the depth right. That's how far it's going to pop out. Alright, then here we're going to make a circular pattern again. That's my feature. Rotation axis is anywhere on the cylinder, and you count how many there are. For my purposes, I'm going to say there's 10, and click OK, and that should give me about the right thing. I can turn off visibility on the plane, and let's see. Does that look about like that? Yeah, I would be happy with that. Good luck, make sure you use all the correct dimensions, and I think we're done.